And we are back again with a brand new episode of another 24. I am your amazingly handsome host, Taurus Montez, and today I have a very special guest in the building. Now, this guest is going to give me a crash course in everything Bitcoin. I'm excited about this one because I literally have no idea how it works. So I have the one, the only, Ben, the Bitcoin expert in the building. What's going on, my brother? How you doing?
I am doing outstanding. How are you today?
I'm good, man. How much you made on Bitcoin today, man? Did you check?
I think it's actually down today.
Oh, okay.
So try not to look every day.
Right.
It's hard to stay away from looking at the price, but think more long term with Bitcoin.
Got you. So first and foremost, what is Bitcoin? It's not a physical, tangible thing, but yet it's worth tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah. Probably the easiest way to answer that question is Bitcoin is money. And we're not really taught what money is. I know until I ran into Bitcoin a few years ago, I thought of just dollars. A dollar was money, or currency was money. And when you start to really learn about Bitcoin, you start asking, and you have to research what actually is money, because you're really not taught what money is. I went to public school. I went to the University of Georgia. I was a finance major, and I don't think anybody's ever described for me until I started researching Bitcoin what the actual properties of money are. And we can talk further about that if you like. But the easiest answer is Bitcoin is money, and it might be the best money that man has either discovered or invented, depending on which way you want to think about it. But the easiest way to describe it is Bitcoin's money.
Okay. So why would you describe it as the best currency that man has ever made?
Well, so if you think about the properties of a money, there's three main things that money does. It serves as a store of value. So it serves as a medium of exchange, and it serves as a unit of account. In its 16-year history, it's the best store of value that we've ever seen. It has increased in value more than any asset over any period of time in that 16-year span. I believe because of its properties that it will continue in dollar terms. If you're measuring it in dollars, it will go up forever, which is a weird thing to say and think about. And that's because it's absolutely scarce. There will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin. There will never be more. And so as the number of users who use it grows and the value that is accrued within Bitcoin grows, the only way that the dollar price of it can go is up.
Wow. So there's only 21 million Bitcoin.
That will ever be. Yeah.
Huh. Now, these are not physical coins? Does it exist in a physical form at all?
Nope. Early on, there have been some inventors who have created some coins that they could attach the private keys to, so you could actually hold a coin and say, here's my Bitcoin. But even though it's digital, it doesn't physically exist. It actually is a bearer asset, a bearer instrument, like gold or like a dollar. If you bear it, if you hold it, you own it. And the way you do that is through the encryption, the private key. So you can only move Bitcoin, send Bitcoin, if you have the private key to the Bitcoin that you own. And you can actually take those keys offline and store them. You could store them, write them down on a piece of paper. Not really the best way to store that. And that's what we call taking custody of your own Bitcoin. So you actually can hold your own Bitcoin just like if it were gold, by holding those private keys.
So it'll be out of circulation. Nobody can ever get it.
That's correct, yeah. Wow. There's a saying in Bitcoin, not your keys, not your coins. So if you leave your Bitcoin on Coinbase or on some other exchange, they actually control your Bitcoin because they own your private keys. So if you really want to control and own your Bitcoin, you need to take custody of your Bitcoin via owning the private keys.
Gotcha. Now, being a finance major and learning about money not what money actually is, but learning about the properties, how to use money, things like that. What made you actually want to invest in it? Because to me, it seems kind of scammy.
Yeah. I really didn't at first. I started with $5. I was following a guy on Twitter at the time, and he was a smart software guy, and he wrote a Medium article and said, hey, go set up a Coinbase account and put $5 in this new cryptocurrency called Bitcoin. And I was like, that seems interesting. So I went and did it, $5. And just the timing of it was 2013, and this was the time when there was a spike in the value of Bitcoin. It went from somewhere around $20 a Bitcoin to about $1,000 a Bitcoin in just a couple days. And like everyone else who gets into Bitcoin, you think you're late. Like I was like, well, I missed it. You know, it just went from $20 to $1,000. It went up 50x. You know, like it's over. So I just started with $5, and then really didn't think about it. I put like a weekly buy for probably the next 4 years. I did like $10 a week, like a cup of coffee basically. And then in 2017, it spiked from like $300 to $20,000. And so that's when I was like, man, like it's cool that I have some of this. Man, I wish I'd have bought a lot more. Right. I need to really learn what the heck this is. So really 2017 is when I started to really take interest in it, start to learn about it, and then really actually start investing, as you would say, just basically start accumulating. Yeah, so that's I didn't just immediately start.
Right.
What tends to happen is because it grows so much, it just starts to take up more and more and more of your portfolio, and it gets your attention because it's growing so much faster than everything else or anything else you could be investing in. Mm-hmm. And so it basically draws your attention and grasps you. At least it did me.
So when you tell people about, what you do, you being invested in Bitcoin, like what is the thing that you have to tell them to convince them that this is something that's actually legit, something that's real?
Yeah, that's a good one. For a long time, I really tried to convince people, and it doesn't really work. People are careful and they're cautious. There are a few things that I've said to people that has resonated. Like for instance, there's never been a 4-year period where Bitcoin has lost dollar value. So if you put money into Bitcoin, even at the high of 2017, within 4 years, it was higher than that. So if you zoom out and take a long-term view, no one has ever lost money buying Bitcoin. And when I say no one's ever lost money, they've never lost dollar value. Right. I have started to flip what I measure things in. I measure things now in Bitcoins. And if you do that, you'll start to see that everything goes down in Bitcoin terms. So the purchasing power of Bitcoin has just astronomically gone up. Like if you take housing, for instance, the average home 5 years ago was like $300,000 US, and it was like 500 Bitcoin. And now the average home is $450,000 US, and it's like 4 Bitcoin.
That's cool.
So if you measure things in Bitcoin, everything gets cheaper over time. Whereas if you measure things in dollars, everything gets more expensive over time.
Okay, that's a good way to look at it. Wow. So I was going to ask you, what is some of the financial mindset shifts that you've had? But I think that's a big one right there.
Yeah, it's a big one. It's like, I like to compare it to any other measure. Like a foot. A foot is 12 inches. If a foot became 14 inches and then 15 inches and then 16 inches, like how do you measure anything? Well, that's what's happening with the dollar. Your dollar buys less and less and less and less over time. And the way that you see that is that everything gets more and more and more expensive. So it's the exact opposite for Bitcoin. If you price the world, if you use Bitcoin as your unit of account, that one of the 3 functions of money, then the world is just getting cheaper. It's basically Bitcoin repricing everything and everything getting cheaper.
So how do people, you obviously have a lot of background knowledge, you did a lot of education on it. How do people find out more about Bitcoin the right way? Because we don't want to listen to some random dude on the internet who's scamming people. Yeah. There's no finance degree for Bitcoin. So how do we learn about it?
Yeah, that's fair. There are some good books out there. There are definitely some good podcasts to listen to. And here's where I would make the separation between Bitcoin and crypto. There's Bitcoin, and then everything else I would put into crypto. Okay. And there have been about 2 million cryptocurrencies created since Bitcoin. And basically they're all scams. They're all companies with a few people who are trying to make a bunch of money for themselves. So they'll give themselves 90% of those tokens, pump them up so that you buy them and raise the value of them, and then they sell all theirs and dump them on you. Of course, there's some people who've gotten lucky and bought a cryptocurrency at a low price and been there at the right time for the run up and made money. But for the most part, if somebody's talking about crypto, run away.
Right.
Now, if they're talking about Bitcoin, they're really the only scams in Bitcoin are Bitcoin affinity scams. They're people who say, "Oh, we're a better Bitcoin," or they'll reach out to you over Facebook and say, I can make you $50,000 in Bitcoin. Just send me your money. Like you don't have to send anybody your money for Bitcoin. In fact, it was designed to be able to be a peer-to-peer value transfer system. So there is no middleman like the banking industry for dollars and the regular fiat monetary system. So just easiest thing to do is buy some and just start watching the price of it. Go watch some podcasts. There's a book called The Bitcoin Standard, which is the seminal work by a guy named Saifedean Ammous. I would highly recommend reading or listening to that book because it's going to teach you about a whole bunch of stuff before it actually talks about Bitcoin, about economics, about history, about money. Because unfortunately, we aren't taught those things, and you kind of need to learn about those to really understand, the innovation that is Bitcoin.
Now, you talked about the reason why Bitcoin was designed to be a peer-to-peer medium. Now, who designed it? I know it's been a lot of murkiness, a lot of cloudiness about the origins of Bitcoin. With you being in it, is there any information that you have that the normal person doesn't?
Well, it was a pseudonymous creator who was able to hide his identity in the internet age. And he called himself Satoshi Nakamoto. He or she or they. Like, we don't know if it was a person, a male or female, or multiple people. I tend to think it was one person because multiple people, you'd think somebody would talk. There's a bunch of theories about him. Now, I will say that there was 40 years of cryptographers trying to build internet money before Bitcoin. And there were some that got pretty close. And some of those were called companies that were making their currency, and they got basically arrested or shut down by the Secret Service for counterfeiting.
Wow.
So there's a long history of people trying to make, and even Henry Ford in the early 1900s postulated that there would one day be an energy money, which is what Bitcoin is. Wow. Another guy that you could look up is a guy named Buckminster Fuller, who, crazy name, but he basically predicted something like Bitcoin as well. So there was a reason that this guy or gal or group of people kept themselves anonymous and disappeared. And really, it's interesting lore related to Bitcoin, but it's also one of the reasons that Bitcoin was successful is because there isn't some guy that governments could go and take down because it's decentralized. It's really anti-fragile and kind of unstoppable. If it were stoppable, it would have been stopped by governments by now.
If for some reason this what's his name,
Satoshi
Nakamoto, if his identity is ever revealed, what do you think would happen? Would he be targeted? Would he be praised as a god?
That's an interesting question. People try all the time to determine who it is. There's been documentaries released who have claimed that it's this guy or that person, and put those people in danger because for a while he was one of the only people who was mining Bitcoin, which we can talk about that if you want. That gets pretty deep, but that's basically just the release of Bitcoin supply into the market. So there are about 1 million Bitcoin that Satoshi Nakamoto mined that have never moved. So think about 1 million Bitcoin at 100,000 a Bitcoin. That's what, $1 billion, or $10 billion. So there's a big hoard of cash out there, and a lot of people believe that he did that and left that the way that he did to prove the security of Bitcoin. And a lot of people believe that he or she or they likely burnt their private keys. So like you'll never be able to move that Bitcoin. But there's 1 million Bitcoin that Satoshi mined and is basically locked up and never moved.
Is it even worth anything if he's burned the keys or they burned the keys?
Well, some of the recent FUD is quantum computing, so potentially a quantum computer could break the encryption and figure out those private keys to move that, and it would be worth. It would be Bitcoins that are now available to move. So they'd be worth a lot.
Okay. Now historically in the United States, Black and brown communities have been pretty shut off from a lot of financial things. I think things are finally turning around for a lot of us.
Yeah.
But what kind of opportunity does Bitcoin serve as, for those communities?
Well, I'm not going to claim that I am an expert
Right.
on that subject at all, but certainly Black and brown people have been disaffected, have been shut out from from high finance, from financial markets, from all sorts of stuff. But it is massive opportunity. One of the characteristics of Bitcoin is that it's permissionless. You don't need anybody's permission to use it. So by default, that means that Black and brown people can benefit from that. It's also, if you think about today in the economy today and the way that money, unfortunately, has been corrupted and debased, you have to be good at something and earn a living. But then you also have to know how to be an investor so that you can grow whatever you're able to make that you don't spend. And that really takes away from you being able to be an expert at whatever it is that you do as a profession. So you used to be able to work, earn a living, and buy gold. And gold would keep its value over time. It was a great store of value asset. You can't really do that as well these days. You've got to be an investor. Bitcoin replaces that. Bitcoin lets you just add value to the world in whatever job it is that you do. If you spend less than you earn, take that excess, buy Bitcoin with it. It's basically the greatest savings account that you could have. And then it's unconfiscatable. So if you own your private keys, nobody can take it from you. It's yours. You're the only person that can move that Bitcoin, and you don't need anybody else's permission to do that. So besides benefiting everyone, I definitely think that is inclusive and is also going to benefit Black and brown people. And it's going to go up in value forever,
right.
and your purchasing power will increase forever. So
you can pass the keys to your kids.
Exactly.
Now, a few years ago, Odell Beckham Jr., football player, I'm sure you know where I'm going with this, he decided to take his NFL salary in Bitcoin.
Yep.
Now, a lot of people looked at him like he was crazy.
Yep.
But I bet a lot of people are probably kicking rocks right now.
Yeah.
What do you think about that move, and what do you think that means for the future of how Bitcoin is utilized?
I loved it. I loved it at the time. I was definitely paying attention. Russell Okung is another one who did that. And they're both they've both let everybody know, like I told you, we were right. One of the guys that helped OBJ was a guy named Jack Mallers, who has a Bitcoin only finance app and company called Strike, and I'm definitely a big fan and user of the Strike app. If we can talk about ways for people to get into Bitcoin and use Bitcoin. Strike is one of those. So I was watching those podcasts. I was listening to OBJ. I was a little disappointed that it didn't catch on more, that more people weren't doing it. Maybe they will now that they can see how much that has benefited OBJ, Russell Okung, and some others. Scottie Pippen is a big Bitcoin guy now. I don't know if you've heard of that, but yeah, at the time I'm like, man, amazing move. Yeah. He's going to benefit massively from that. Little disappointed that there haven't been way more.
Doing that.
Yeah.
Because why not do that every year?
Right.
I mean, now you talked about mining Bitcoin, and you said that the Bitcoin that's available now is all that there will ever be. So that means that mining is no longer possible or no longer allowed.
So mining is still a thing. The way that it was configured is. You have to run computers to release the supply of Bitcoin. So it wasn't just all let out all at one time. And it's an allegory to gold mining. So if you think about gold mining, when gold has been like found, in a certain area, like the 49ers in San Francisco, or actually the first gold rush was in North Georgia, which most people don't know. But you're finding nuggets, you're finding it easily. And then like if you flash forward to today, you've got to move like mountains of dirt to get dust to turn that into gold. So it gets harder and harder and harder to mine gold as you go. So that's how the Bitcoin supply was created to be released. So in the first 4 years, half of the supply was mined, and then 4 years after that, 25%. So it halves roughly every 4 years. So 50%. 25%, then 12.5%, then 6.25%. Right now we're in the 3.125%, what we call epoch. And actually Bitcoin mining will continue until the year about 2140.
Oh, wow.
But it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. About 95% of the supply has already been mined, so there's about 5% left.
Okay.
And the network that mines Bitcoin uses more energy and has more compute power than Google, AWS, Microsoft, Oracle, IBM, and every other company there is in the world, and all the AI data centers combined by orders of magnitude. Like people, like when I say Bitcoin is energy money, the amount of energy required to mine Bitcoin is staggering, and you're basically transmuting or transforming the energy that it requires into that what we call proof of work. That's why you might have heard of proof of work. It's something that applies to Bitcoin, but also applies to life. So like, you know, you're not going to pass a test if you didn't put in the work to study and learn the stuff.
Exactly.
You see a guy who's in good shape, he didn't get that way by accident. He put the work in to do it. So it's kind of a mantra, if you will, and something that expands beyond just the Bitcoin world. But yeah, mining is what blew my mind. I started a Bitcoin mining company. I mined in my basement starting in about 2018. But yeah, if you ever get a chance to go see a Bitcoin mining operation or just a Bitcoin mining computer that's running, you'll understand the energy component of Bitcoin.
Nice. Now you mentioned Strike. So is this? I know it's a community based. Is it like a app or program, marketplace? Like, what is Strike?
Yeah, Strike is a financial application. It's a app that you download on your phone. Cash App is another one that's really easy to use, and a lot of people are familiar with Cash App. You can buy Bitcoin on Cash App. You can buy Bitcoin on Strike. You can send it, easily to your friends. You can get loans now on your Bitcoin through Strike, so you can actually post your Bitcoin collateral and get U.S. dollar loans.
What?
Yeah, in like 5 minutes. Like there's no credit check because it's a collateralized loan. There's all kinds of great features. You can direct deposit from your checking account. And that's free. And if you do regular buys, they don't charge you anything. So like I'll do like a daily buy of like $10. So what's called dollar cost averaging, just buying a little bit at a time, which is a pretty good strategy. You could do that daily, weekly, monthly. So there's all kinds of features on there, but it's Bitcoin only. And I would recommend using something like a Cash App or Strike that's Bitcoin only. There are plenty of other apps out there that are Bitcoin and Dogcoin and, pepperoni pizza coin and all these other coins that are going to end up losing your money on those. So I would highly recommend. Plus, it's a much larger attack surface. Bitcoin is secure. These other ones aren't secure. So I would definitely focus on the Bitcoin only ones, and two of them that I know and trust are Strike and Cash App. But there are others that are good as well. River Financial is one. Bitcoin Well is another. There've been a lot of good Bitcoin only companies popping up lately.
So if Bitcoin just completely disappeared tomorrow, what do you think that would do to the American economy or the global economy?
Hard to say what it would do to the American economy. I do think that it would be a massive loss of hope for humanity.
Wow.
Because
humanity.
Because really the money has been so corrupted by governments. Inflation is theft. Like, it just is theft. If you think about money, just your fraction of total dollars. Well, if our government is constantly printing more dollars, then that means that your fraction of total is constantly going down. And if everything gets more expensive all the time, that means that hard work and effort that you put in to get paid and that money that you've earned, it buys less and less and less. Where our government can print money for free that the rest of us have to work for. So it's not fair. It's theft.
Wow.
So something's got to give. I believe that there's hope in Bitcoin from a monetary standpoint, because we will have separated the state from having the exorbitant privilege of being able to make and create money out of thin air. So I do think from a monetary standpoint, this may sound, hopefully this doesn't come off the wrong way or sound terrible, but like the dollar is slavery, unfortunately, at this point.
No, I agree with you. I mean, that's for
so Bitcoin can't be corrupted. You can't make more of it. There will only ever be 21 million. And on the dollar system, you have people that are working to create value, but they're accruing all the benefits of that value to just a few people. Whereas if everyone is on a Bitcoin standard, then all of the value that's generated accrues to everyone. Right? So it truly, I think, would be a massive loss of hope for humanity if Bitcoin were to disappear.
Now, you mentioned Stripe, you mentioned Cash App, and you're able to go and purchase Bitcoin. You can do it, purchase however much you want, daily, weekly. So if the Bitcoin if there's only a limited supply, who am I buying the Bitcoin from?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there are miners, so there are companies now who mine on an industrial scale, and in the past they've been net sellers. So when they mine it, they'll sell it and generate dollar revenues for their company. Last couple of years though, they've stopped selling and they've actually been buying from the open market as well. The net sellers right now are what we would call OGs, old whales who were mining early, who have tens of thousands of Bitcoin, and they've held it since it was almost nothing, right. And now it's they're literally billionaires. Someone about a month ago moved and sold 80,000 Bitcoin for $9 billion that they had held since 2009. Wow. So to hold on to something that went from nothing to 9 billion, there are many spots in there that they could have sold, but they held. That's amazing conviction to hold it for that long, but. Which that needs to happen. There are still a bunch of whales out there who have 1,000, 5,000, 10,000 Bitcoin that have just kind of been waiting to, now they want a Lambo or they want a house,
right.
Or they want a jet for their family,
right.
And they've had the conviction to hold out, and so. It is the most liquid market that there is. So anytime you're buying, there has to be a seller. Right now, the biggest net sellers, and you can see what's cool about Bitcoin too is you can see all of this. So because all of this is digital and it's all tracked, there are people who have amazing dashboards that can show you what cohorts of people are selling, what cohorts of people are buying, what price they bought at, what price they sold at. Like it is very open and transparent. So you can actually see who's selling.
Oh, okay. Dang. So do you think it'll ever be a time where, Bitcoin is the currency of America or the currency of a country?
I mean, I hope so. Those things, they don't happen quickly. Mm-hmm. And of course, governments are going to do everything they can to maintain their grip on the exorbitant privilege of controlling the money. Right. So I think it's going to take a while. I think the dollar system will still be around for a while in parallel. I think if you take a really long-term view, though, I think Bitcoin becomes the store of value, the medium of exchange, and the unit of account. I think it becomes the underpinning of the entire global financial system.
Wow. Jeez. I mean, this is so interesting to me. I'm like, my mind is blown. My mind gets blown
every day. I love thinking about it and talking about it. So happy to be here talking about it with you.
So, because you said that there were other, before, what's his name, Satoshi? What is his name?
Satoshi Nakamoto.
Okay. Before them,
yeah,
there were already people, experimenting, this type of currency. What made Bitcoin so successful? Why did that one take off versus the other ones?
There are a number of factors. So basically all of the technology that he used he or she or they to create Bitcoin already existed for a while, right. But it was the combining of those, and then there were a few just incredible innovations that were included in it. So just the balance of incentives. There's something called the Byzantine generals problem, which is a computer science problem that was solved, which is solved through the decentralized nature of Bitcoin and through what people refer to as the blockchain, which maybe is better described as the time chain. The what's called the difficulty adjustment with mining, because if you think about it, if it just takes energy to mine Bitcoin, well, couldn't somebody just throw a whole bunch of energy at it and mine all the Bitcoin? Well, no, he included what's called the difficulty adjustment. So every 2 weeks, the difficulty of mining Bitcoin ratchets up or down based on the amount of energy that's been added to the network. So it has been programmed so that it will take till 2140 to mine all the Bitcoin, no matter how much energy there is that's added to this. So there's little things like that were little tweaks, little innovations. Right. The fact that it's decentralized, so all of the technology that was used to build Bitcoin, it was all really created to survive a nuclear war, the internet, databases, et cetera. So all you have to have is one node on the network that survives global calamity, that has the history of the blockchain, and then it can be restarted again. So while I'm kind of technical, I'm not super technical, but that part of it blows my mind as well, because the computer science, the computer science behind it, it's such a deep rabbit hole.
Right.
But the collective incentives, I would say, is and some of the key innovations that he included are why it survived, and also because he was anonymous, because there wasn't someone that could be swooped in on and made.
I hear about these
off.
crypto billionaires, popping up dead. So maybe that's probably why it's so successful. But so you have a finance degree, which I see how that's helpful, with what you do in Bitcoin. But it's almost like you didn't need to learn any of that. It's like Bitcoin is like a totally different just frame around money, and it's like it almost goes against all the rules of money that we know and love.
You're 100% on that, 100% right on that. And it's almost like, unfortunately, we're not taught that stuff on purpose. Mm-hmm. Because if you knew, like when you hear about the 2% inflation, we're targeting 2% inflation. I don't know if you ever heard that from the Federal Reserve, which is neither federal nor has any reserves, and it's not part of the government. And it's a central bank, which was one of the key tenets of communism, which we've had a central bank since 1913. So all of that stuff aside, when you start to learn about Bitcoin, it's like a veil is lifted. It's like scales are removed from your eyes, and it's like, we call it taking the orange pill, being orange pilled, like the Matrix, the red pill or the blue pill. Yeah. When you really get Bitcoin, it's an orange pill. Like, it is like you don't see the world the same way that you saw it before. So like the 2% inflation target, it's like, oh, okay, so it's okay for you to steal from everyone 2% every year. So that means that within 40 years, you've stolen all of their wealth,
exactly.
Right? So why do we have a 2%? You don't need a 2% inflation target. I think the reason there's a couple of reasons they probably centered on 2%. One is because that's about roughly the inflation of gold. So there's about 2%, 1.5 to 2% of new gold added to the added to the supply every year. And since gold has been, de facto money for 5,000 years, we think that maybe that we need that. And I think the other reason is you don't really notice 2% getting stolen from you every year.
Exactly. Yeah, that's true. And it's just like, okay, 2%, I can handle that.
Right.
But 2% over, like you said, 40 years, that adds up.
Well, and once you start learning about Bitcoin, then you start learning about money, and that takes you down a rabbit hole of history. And you learn that, at one point in time, salt was money. At one point, sticks with notches in them were money. Gold glass beads in Africa were money. The money in ancient Rome, you learn about that's where the term debasement came from, because they would collect all the coins, and then they'd reissue coins with less gold in them, debasing them to steal the wealth from the people. So there's a lot of history that you'll start to dig into. There's a lot of theory that you just never knew existed out there, like Austrian economics. We are Keynesians by far. Every college that teaches economics, it's based on a guy from the UK named John Maynard Keynes. And I won't go into all the details there, but there's a whole school of thought called Austrian economics that deals in sound money and actual economizing that you're just not allowed to learn. It is not taught. You have to go and seek it out to find out about it.
I got to do my research. I got to do more research.
Yeah.
Now, how would you coach or recommend that the person who has 0 Bitcoin right now, how would you recommend they start to invest? Is it little by little? Should they just throw a lump sum at it? Or what do you think?
That's a great question. This is like a heated topic in the Bitcoin community. People have done a bunch of studies on this. The first thing I would say is don't put more money in it than that's going to make you worry about it. Like, whatever you can put in there and leave. Because it's really the old saying, it's not about timing the market, it's about time in the market. That very much applies to Bitcoin. As I mentioned earlier, the 4-year span, nobody's ever lost dollar value on Bitcoin in a 4-year span. Okay. So you need to think about it as a long-term investment. Okay. Of course, some people have gotten lucky, timed it just right, and made a bunch of dollars in a short amount of time, but you need to think about it as a savings account. Start with what you can put there and leave, and not have to sell, at some point because you need it. You want to put it there and let it grow, and then just watch it and start to seek out, sources on it. What's going to happen is over time it's going to grow faster than everything else, and it's going to get your attention, and then you'll start to hope for the price to go down so that you can buy more of it, so that you can buy the dip, But there are studies that show that lump sum actually is a better approach. Okay. So maybe once you've done a little bit, you've seen it grow, you've built some conviction, you can stomach the volatility, because it does go up and down. It is volatile, but over time it's way up. In the short term, though, it's up and down, and it can be kind of scary. So then, once you've built some conviction and you decide, okay, I'm ready to actually, put a real, chunk of my my portfolio in it. Mm-hmm. You can wait for a dip and do kind of a chunky lump sum. Okay. Right. I still, DCA is the easiest. You set it and forget it. Dollar cost average. Yeah. So just buy a little bit on all, weekly, monthly, daily, whatever your time frame is. These apps make it so easy to get a portion of your paycheck just automatically allocated. Mm-hmm. Like I don't do 401k. 401k is a scam, unfortunately. It seems like it's good, but all it does is it earns fees for investment banks. I don't do a 401k anymore. I take what I would have put in my 401k and I allocate that to Bitcoin every paycheck.
You can just cash out whenever you want.
Yeah.
Bitcoin. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, with the market, I know we're running up on time, but real quick, with the market goes up and down, the stock market.
Yep.
Sometimes we can predict it. We can look at jobs reports. If there's a plane crash, if the president gets sick, whatever, we can kind of time the market and see that something happened. Is it the same with Bitcoin? Why does it go up and down so crazily? What are the factors?
Man, you got me. I mean, there definitely has been a correlation between Bitcoin and the normal business cycle and stock market. So they've been, fairly correlated. There have been some times when they've decoupled. Eventually, they're not going to be correlated, but it's hard for me to say. I think global events, current events, they impact the price of Bitcoin because ultimately, the price reflects what people are doing. So and it's the purest market there is. Mm-hmm. It's already been active longer than the Dow Jones or NASDAQ, because those only trade from 8 to 4 or 9 to 4:30 Monday through Friday. Bitcoin trades 24/7, 365, and it never shuts off. So it's the most liquid market there is. And if something's going to sell off if you see Bitcoin going down on a weekend, you can be pretty sure that the market's going to go down the following week, because the only thing people could trade over the weekend was Bitcoin. So, it's still human beings, and there's still fear and greed. It's still a market, probably the most pure market there is. But I try to, as hard as it is, as difficult as it is, I try to make sure to always remind myself, you got to zoom out and view dips as buying opportunities, because there's going to be times when fear sets in and people sell, and the price will go down when there's more people selling than there are buying.
There we go. Well, I appreciate this. This was a good one, man. We got to do a part 2, man. We got to do a part 2.
I'm down.
Yeah, but before you get out of here, how can people reach you if they want to know more about Bitcoin or have any questions, or they need some education behind it? Just let them know where to find you or how they can get more education.
Yeah, the easiest way to get me, I'm on Instagram at Ben and Bitcoin, Ben and Bitcoin, and you can just follow me there and DM me there. I love talking about it. I love helping people get started. There's a lot more to it. We just kind of scratched the surface here, today. So happy to answer any questions anybody might have. You hit me up at Instagram at Ben and Bitcoin.
All right, Ben and Bitcoin, the Bitcoin expert. Hey, I'm about to buy me some Bitcoin. When I get rich, don't say nothing to me, man. But I thank you, man. I appreciate it. And yeah, we definitely got to do a part 2, man. This was good, man.
Awesome.
So thank you, man. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was good. That was good. I'm about to go. You said, what was the documentary called?
You want the book or the documentary on Satoshi?
Either one.